Hi, my name's Steve. There's an old story about a grandson and his grandfather, and the grandson is looking really torn up. Something inside of him is just eating him up, and the grandfather goes up to his grandson and says, "Grandson, what's on your mind? Why do you look so upset?" And the grandson says, "Grandfather, I've got this problem, and it's like inside of my mind and inside of my heart, there's these two wolves, and each wolf represents a different choice as to how I could approach this problem. And one wolf is forgiving and kind and accepting, and the other wolf is ferocious and wants to better the other wolf and get the problem and smack it down and tear it up." And he goes, "I just don't know which wolf is going to win." And the grandfather looks down at his grandson and says, "The wolf that will win is the one that you will feed." We have a concept at SuperCamp, one of our 8 keys of excellence, called Speak with Good Purpose. And Speak with Good Purpose is one of our 8 keys that says, speaking with good purpose in our lives is to communicate with positive intent. It's communicating with positive intent with our words and with our actions. And it's communicating with positive intent with other people and with ourselves. I don't know about you, if you think about your brain and how curious it is and how exploratory it is, we're constantly imagining and role-playing movies of the mind. So think about driving your car and how you're thinking back to some disagreement or dispute or argument that you were having, and then you go, "Oh, that would have been the perfect comeback at that moment." But you thought about it 4 hours later, and you're like, "If only I could go back in time and say that comment. That would be so great." Or maybe you've been driving before or just thinking about something that could happen between you and someone else, maybe at work or with your son or your daughter or your spouse, and you're like, "If that comes up, I know exactly what I'm going to say. If my son comes in and says that when he's late, oh, that's what I'm going to say. That's what I'll say next time." Oftentimes when we think about these role plays inside of our mind, we're thinking about the negative things that we could say, the things that could really just get them, the things that could really, oh yeah, just put them in their place. And what Speaking with Good Purpose says is that just like we don't have to eat everything that we see on our plates, we don't have to say everything that we have in our minds. Or we can completely redirect those things in our minds. So instead of the negative comebacks that are really going to get them and put them in their place, what could I do that would instead be very resourceful? How could I acknowledge my son the next time that I see him do something that I just think is so great and I want to reinforce? Or how about gossip? Most times when we think of gossip, we think of people talking poorly about other people behind those other people's backs. But another thing that we can do is put on strength seekers. And so what are all of the strengths that I see in my daughter, in my son, in my wife, my husband, in my colleagues, and thinking about those things and talking about those things instead. There can be positive gossip. Or this third example, what about when we write an email? Have you ever written an email to someone or started to write an email and then sat back for a second and gone, "Boy, this really doesn't read that nicely," or "I maybe shouldn't send this," or "I think I'll sit on this until tomorrow." And then you come back to it tomorrow and you either delete it or change it all because it was coming out negatively and not really speaking with good purpose. One of the things that we can do in those moments is, instead of just waiting, we can actually rearrange it and then start seeking to understand by asking questions. Instead of our intention being to come back at a person or come down on them, We can ask them understanding questions like, what could we meet about, and why might you be thinking that right now, and how can we explore this further? I'd love to talk with you more about this, instead of putting it into writing and then sending out that negative energy towards someone in our family or someone that we work with on a day-to-day basis. These are some of the action steps that we can do about the key of speak with good purpose. I hope they're useful.